Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew, coming to you from the beautiful Carolinas. Today's topic is going to be who you were isn't who you are. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. So who you were, this is definitely not who you are. Remember, life is dynamic. Each and every day you are changing, you are growing, you are evolving. And the narcissist took advantage of you when you were in that relationship with them because you weren't taught this in school. You didn't know what narcissism was. And so back then, who you were was you were a clean slate. You were what is called the new supply. You were what I call an opportunity. You were somebody who was tricked and trapped into that relationship. And you were always trying to get back to the inception or back to the beginning of that relationship, which is known as the love bomb / euphoric stage. And that is the part of the relationship when everything appears to almost be too good to be true because, well, it is too good to be true. You see, the narcissist knew what they were doing. They had done to you what they had done to so many people before you. They had done to you what they were doing with other people when you were in the relationship with them. And they are doing the same thing right now. The narcissist is trapped in that loop of manipulation, in the loop of toxicity. And they love to keep people trapped in that narcissistic fog. And that's where you were existing for a long period of time. But back then, you didn't know who you were because you had to lose yourself to find yourself. Frequently over the years, I've mentioned this, that there are three versions of you. There's the version of you before you knew the narcissist, probably a person with rose-tinted glasses on, maybe a people pleaser, thinking that everybody thought the same way you did, etc. You probably were giving to a fault and putting other people high up on a pedestal, or you were probably dropping whatever you could to help improve other people's circumstances. That was one version of you. Second version of you was the version of you when you were in the narcissistic abusive relationship. That's when your whole life was turned upside down. That's when you were on that roller coaster of emotions. That's when you were stuck wondering about how this person could behave the way they could behave and who they were. And you didn't even know back then what gaslighting was, what narcissism was, what triangulation was, etc. But now you know and you're learning. And the third version of you is the version of you who has healed or who is healing. You see, that's the person that I am. That's the person you either are or you are becoming. And why I'm mentioning that is because the third version of you is the strongest, most galvanized version of you known to humankind. It's rarefied air. It's when you've put yourself back together and you now realize and can recognize and identify that you are not who you once were. Let's go back in time again for a moment. When you were in that relationship, you were experiencing behaviors you never thought you would experience. You were tolerating behaviors and mannerisms you never thought you would tolerate, and you were giving to a fault. You were placed in that trauma bond. You were placed in that narcissistic fog. You were being devalued more and more and more. And the narcissist knew what they were doing because they had an advantage over you. And the advantage they had over you, they actually believed it was an insurmountable advantage, which was a disadvantage for you. Imagine, if you will, you're playing chess with somebody and that person is an opponent, although you know they're an opponent. Well, if they got to move 3 spaces or 3 pieces before you did, they would have a distinct advantage at winning that game. Well, using the chess analogy, although it is with a person that either you fell in love with or you loved, who turned out to be the narcissist, they were playing that same mental chess game with you, a game you didn't know that you were playing, a game you didn't sign up for. But what they were doing is they were trying to manipulate you and ultimately destroy your life and destroy anything about you that they could, which included all of your resources, your time, empathy, love, money, energy, your friendships, your family, your hopes, dreams, aspirations, your purpose, all these things. But that game, that mental game that they were playing, to them, that's what it was. It was a game. To you, this was and is your life, which is why this is the relationship you will need to heal from. You will have to slow your life down. You will have to realize that you aren't the person you were. You will have to realize that each and every day on the healing path, it will get better and better, slowly, methodically, patiently, stoically. And when you practice radical acceptance and you realize that, yes, you should be grateful to be out of that relationship. You don't want anything to do with the narcissist. But again, back then you didn't know what you know now. You weren't taught this in school. So how could you identify, example, what the smear campaign was? How could you identify what triangulation was? You didn't know that being hung up on a phone call should not be tolerated. But now you're realizing that because all these poor behaviors, you are now coupling the behaviors with the definitions in the glossary on the narcissistic abusive cycle, and that equals wisdom. This is a newfound wisdom. It's a newfound superpower that you've either acquired or you are acquiring, and you're realizing that, in fact, you are not the same person that you once were. So the third version of you, either you're in it or you are about to enter it. That's my hope, at least. My hope is you're out of the narcissistic relationship, you're out of the narcissistic abusive cycle, and you're putting yourself back together. But those three versions of you are completely true, accurate, and never more true than today, because more and more people on the planet are becoming awakened and aware, educated and empowered, and they realize that it wasn't just them who went through the cycle, that there are hundreds of millions of us that went through the cycle. The key there is not the amount of people that went through it, although that is very demoralizing and cold pill to swallow, or tough pill to swallow, that so many went through, but it's actually in the billions if you want the truth. But having said that, it's that how many people cracked the code, how many people recognize that they are not who they were, how many people can realize that the narcissist took advantage of them, how many people actually will practice radical acceptance and understand that that person who you are considering, the narcissist, they didn't love you, they don't love you, they don't love anybody, they don't care about anybody, they look at people as opportunities, they look at people as pawns, as puppets, as indentured servants, and they look at people to destroy their mindset, their life, their bank account, their hopes, dreams, aspirations, and more. That's reality. That's what the narcissist does. The narcissist is a walking cyclone. They want to destroy people's lives. They want to take, and take, and when they're done, what do they want to do? That's right, they want to take more, which is why you, the person watching the video, you should be either going no contact or considering doing it. If you can't, I understand, but become small, get off the radar of the narcissist, realize and recognize that you are not now who you once were. You see, the narcissistic relationship, it turned you inside out. It took you super high on that roller coaster of emotions. It dropped you super low. You were pushed away and you were pulled in. There was a draw, an energetic connection that you felt compelled to talk to the toxic person who was trying to destroy your life, because that's what's known as the trauma bond. Trauma bond is a whole heavy experience that you have gone through. I went through it myself. It's one of the most challenging, debilitating things to go through, number one, but number two, to break it, that's a whole different level. But that's what you're doing or you've done, and I've certainly done it. And I went through sleepless nights. I went through times when I gained weight, lost weight. I couldn't turn a light switch on at night. For 2 years and 2 days, I was isolated and trapped in a location that I'm not gonna go back to anytime soon, but that's when I had to focus on myself. I stayed in that cocoon of boundaries. I healed. I practiced radical acceptance. I practiced stoicism. I practiced patience. And I had created, developed, and got ready to execute an exit plan, which is something that you will have to do if you haven't done it yet. But all these things, they culminate and they equal one thing for this video: recognizing that you are not now who you once were. You see, who you were in the past is you were looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses. You were believing that everybody thought the way you thought. You were believing that people had your best interest at heart, and you were believing that perhaps your blood relatives were like-minded and they cared about you and they wanted the best for you. Well, we now know that it's not only many times your blood relatives, but the people that know you the best, and at the top of that list certainly is the narcissist, who will do the most damage to you because they do know you the best. And back then, when you didn't know that you shouldn't be oversharing, back then when you didn't know what narcissism was, back then when you were believing in people's words rather than watching their actions or lack thereof, you didn't know those things. And then what happened? Well, you met the behemoth, you met the juggernaut, you met the ticking time bomb on two legs, which is the narcissist. And this person tried to detonate right in front of you and implode you and your life. That's why all these people that you were in relationships way before you met the narcissist, they weren't talking to you as much, they weren't around as much, because the narcissist was driving wedges between you and them. That's why you lost your hobbies. That's why you lost your interests. That's why perhaps you don't want to read books anymore, or you don't want to go surfing or go skiing, or you didn't want to go out and go dancing or whatever you used to do, because the narcissist took all of this from you. And they slowly, insidiously crept into your life, and they sold you a bill of goods, which turned into be absolutely toxic. And that's why this is the relationship you will need to heal from. Now think about this for a moment. Did you ever think before you watched this video or before you met the narcissist that you would have to heal from a relationship? Of course you didn't. Who would think that you'd have to heal from a relationship? You would have to heal from a broken heart. You would have to heal from the loss of a loved one. You would have to heal from maybe having to relocate or something. But this is before narcissism. I'm talking everyday average things that people go through. But this narcissistic relationship, you need to heal from it. And that's exactly what I've done, and that's why I create videos each and every day to help people who don't even know that they need help, to shine a beacon of positivity and a beacon of hope and a beacon of belief for those people who don't even know what narcissism is yet. You see, at one point I was where you are or where you were. I was the new supply, and I didn't know that narcissism existed, and I was an open book. I definitely was a people pleaser. I was believing in another person's words that their actions would match their words. And now we know that none of that's true. That the narcissist will paint any narrative they want to as long as they can get close to you and assimilate themselves with you and slowly begin to take away whatever they want from you. Which again is why when you do certain things with the narcissist before you knew that they were the narcissist, such as tell them I love you, move in with them, go into business with them, have children, relocate, etc. When you do any and or all of those things, now you are in an extremely vulnerable position because the person you are or were believing in, who turned out to be the narcissist, they now have you where they want you. Go back to that chess analogy. They now have you in a corner with their rook and their queen and their knight and their bishop, and maybe there's a pawn swarming around there somewhere. And it looked like you would never get out of that corner in that mental game of chess. But guess what happened? One of your pawns crossed all the way to the other end of the board. You got another queen, and you broke out of that corner, and slowly you removed the chess pieces, which included the rook, the bishop, the pawn, their queen, and the knight, and more. And next thing you know, what did you do? Say it with me. Yes, it was checkmate. You won. Now, life isn't about winning and losing in our eyes, in the empath's eyes. Life is meant to be experienced, relished, cherished, honored, enjoyed, and celebrated, and shared with another like-minded person. That's not how the narcissist sees things. They look at everything as a game. They look at everything as a zero-sum game where they have to win. That's why they're always playing mental chess with people. That's why they manipulate people. That's why they groom people. That's why they trick and trap people. And that's why there is a place that does exist, although you can't touch it, and that's called the narcissistic fog. That's a very daunting place to be. When you're in there, you're existing, you're not living. You're doing what another person wants you to do, and they are trying to also take away your energy, your mindset, your resources, and yes, destroy your life. But again, when you were in that narcissistic fog or that devaluation stage or the trauma bond, which are all interchangeable yet unique to themselves, when you were in that space mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, you didn't know where you were. What you did know is you were trying to get some common ground or some serenity or calmness in your life. But the narcissist wouldn't allow that, would they? No, they wouldn't. What they wanted to do was continue to pepper you with abuse. You see, but back then, you didn't know what you know now, and back then you were somebody different, which is why today, you are not who you once were. Today, you're somebody different. Even if you've made it this far in the video, and this is the first video you've ever consumed, you now realize that over the last 13 minutes and 8 seconds, you're a different person. Because just my words alone are ringing through you, ringing to you, and ringing true to you from above. You see, I'm meant to be creating this video right now, right here where I am. You're meant to be consuming it no matter where you are. Maybe you're having breakfast in a bowl of cereal. Maybe you're on a plane getting ready to go halfway around the world. Maybe you're in a hotel room. Maybe you're on vacation. Maybe you're at work, wink, wink. Who knows where you are, but you're meant to be consuming this video. And I would play it, and I would play it until the end, because it's going to be chock full of wisdom, of real life experience, and letting you realize that you are not who you once were. You're somebody totally different. And why you're different, it's not only because life is dynamic, because you're learning, it's because you're out of the cycle, or you are about to be out of the cycle. Now you see how humanity can work. Now you see how human beings can say one thing and mean something completely different. Now you see how somebody can place another person in the trauma bond. Now you see how somebody can manipulate another person and financially abuse them. Now you can see how somebody can get married, take their vows, the same vows you took, but use that wedding ring as a license to abuse, as a beard, as a shield, as a cover, while they were getting new supplies left, right, and center behind your back. Now you can see why the narcissist doesn't care about their own children. Now you can see why they paint a narrative of them being the best person to the general public, and behind closed doors, there's somebody completely the opposite. Now you can see why the narcissist is crawling all over social media, dating apps, and they're everywhere. And now again, you can see why you aren't the same person who you once were. You see, you've gone through the narcissistic abusive cycle, and you've either healed or you are healing. One thing I can assure you is you're acquiring, or you have acquired, the wisdom. And this wisdom you can't get from reading a book, you can't get from taking a class, you can't get from watching a video. You can get little tidbits of it here, there, and everywhere. But unless you went through the narcissistic abusive cycle, you won't know what it's like to be in the mind of somebody who was abused day in and day out for weeks, months, or years, or maybe even a lifetime. And that person, who my hope is wasn't you, but probably was, you had to heal, as I mentioned. This is the relationship you'll have to slow your life down and heal from. All these things I'm mentioning to you, they equal one thing. That equals toxicity that was in your life that no longer is in your life. And it also equals a fact that you're a strong person. You're resilient, you're determined, you're full of fortitude, commitment, strength, direction, and purpose. These are all the things the narcissist, and many more, that they wanted to take from you. And the narcissist thought they had knocked you out for the count because they took their best swings at you, their best jabs, their best punches. They did everything they possibly could to blow up your life, but they failed. And they didn't succeed because you're here. You see, as I mentioned earlier, there are hundreds of millions of us who've gone through the cycle, and truth be told, that number is definitely in the billions over the history of time. But having said that, how many people actually figured out that they were in the narcissistic relationship? Not that many. How many people put 2 and 2 together and cracked the code? Not many. How many people healed and healed properly? You did, or you're doing it, and I did. See, we're a small number, and that's why our numbers are growing. We are becoming more and more awakened and aware, educated and empowered, and we realize that we are no longer the people who we once were. We are definitely no longer the people we were before we met the narcissist. We are certainly no longer the people we were when we were in that narcissistic abusive cycle. Now we're in the third version of ourselves, the strongest, most galvanized version of ourselves known to humankind. And many people say, what are you talking about, Andrew? What is that? I'm the same person I've always been. Well, that means you haven't gone through the cycle. It's exactly what it means. That's why if you have gone through the cycle, my hope, unfortunately, is you could finish my sentence. I certainly can finish yours in a second. And I can tell where you are in the journey just from communicating with you for a moment or so. And my hope, again, is that you acquire that wisdom. But if you've gone through the cycle and you've healed, then you can do the same thing I can do. This is a superpower that we didn't ask for. It's a language that we speak. The people that have healed and or who are healing, we didn't ask to learn this language. But remember, we all went through the narcissistic abusive cycle. We share the same experiences, just in a different timeline, with a different toxic energy source, and in different areas of the world. That is why we all speak the same language. If you didn't go through the cycle, you don't speak the language, and you're probably thinking that what I'm saying doesn't make sense to you. It simply means either A, you haven't gone through it, or B, you haven't gone through it, let's put it like that. Having said those things before I close the video, you are not now who you once were. It's completely true. You see, this narcissistic relationship has changed your mindset. It's changed your direction, your purpose. It's changed the trajectory of your life. It's changed your focus. It's changed the way you use your words. It's changed the way you observe people. It's changed the way you don't overshare information. It's changed the way you now have a small footprint. It's changed the way you now have boundaries. You can say no, the strongest one in the English language. And remember, when you say no to something or someone, yes, you are saying yes to yourself. You see, you're different now. You've evolved, you've ascended, you've grown, you've elevated. You never thought you would do that, but then again, you never thought you would be in the narcissistic abusive cycle. So now you're either in the third version of yourself, or you're entering it one way or the other. You're out of the loop, you're out of the cycle, you're out of the abuse. You're not the first version of yourself, that person's long gone. You're not the second version of yourself when you're being peppered with abuse. You're entering the third version when you're having boundaries and you're slowing your life down and you're healing. I will say this before I close the video. Many people want the healing path to just be over like that. Not gonna happen. You're gonna have to take time, a lot of time, and in your time you will heal. But you can't rush it, you can't force it, you can't fake it. Picture, if you will, a dark tunnel, and at the end of that dark tunnel is light. There's a tiny little speck of light, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's your healing path for you right there. You have to go through the darkness to get to see the light. And each and every day, week, month, year, or as time passes, that light will get bigger and brighter and brighter and brighter. Eventually, you'll be out of that dark tunnel and you will be at the other side, which is what I call the pinnacle of indifference, the mountaintop of indifference, where it's nothing but sunshine and abundance and rainbows and beauty and positivity and everybody who has healed. We are all there. We are all standing, waiting for you to get there. So if you're in that tunnel and it seems a little dark today, keep moving forward. Keep knowing that that light will get bigger. Don't stop. Don't ever stop. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Keep moving forward. The sun will rise tomorrow and the stars will continue to shine tomorrow. And if today's a great day for you, capitalize on it, celebrate. When I say celebrate, I mean just really embrace where you are and know that you're enjoying or experiencing a good day. That's what I mean. So realize that the healing path will take you high and low, and you're going to be questioning yourself and doubting yourself and wondering and processing and understanding. But the further you get away from the narcissist, the stronger you get. The stronger you get, the weaker they get. The weaker they get, the more encouraging you become, and the more encouraging you become, the clarity returns to your mind. Next thing you know, you're out of that light, you're out of that darkness, and you're on the other side of that tunnel. Always know that tomorrow the sun will rise and it will be a better day. And above all, before this video, before I close it, you are not who you once were. You are now in the third version of you, or entering the third version of you. And this is rarefied air. It's where you belong. I wish you didn't go through the narcissistic abusive cycle. Wish I didn't as well, but that's not reality. Reality is we did. So we need to take the lifelong learning lessons from the past. We need to not predict the future. We need to stay in the present moment, the here and the now, control what we can control, focus on ourselves, and realize that we were in a very, very challenging relationship, but we got out, and now we've either healed or we are healing, but no longer are we who we once were. We are now in rarefied air, and we are the very strong and fortunate ones. So everyone, that's the video. I hope you liked it. I loved doing it from the beautiful Carolinas. This is Andrew. Namaste. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, no matter where you are on the planet. You are not alone. Remember that, you are not alone. I love you all. God bless you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And I'll share a few things before I close the video. These are a couple of necklaces I have. On this necklace is a special pendant that I had created years ago. And I am using currently a custom-made chain, if you will. So one day I'll reveal what that is, but that's why there was a knot earlier there. Second thing I'm going to reveal to you is the Carolina wilderness and woods is really beaming, it's glowing. My hope is wherever you are, you're enjoying the weather. I really sincerely hope you're getting out, moving your body, and understanding that the more you get outside of your house, if you're ruminating or if you're in a challenging space, if you have the ability to move your body, do so. It's one of the reasons I create videos outdoors every day. Next thing I'm going to share with you is you need to wrap your head around the fact that narcissist doesn't care about anybody. They won't change. They only deteriorate over time, and they will continue to do what they do, which is be self-serving creatures and continue to blame anybody they possibly can. If the narcissist has an audience, believe me, they will be performing. When you were with them, you were the audience. That audience changed from an audience of 1 to many times an audience of 2, 3, 10, 15, 20, whatever it was. But when the narcissist doesn't have an audience any longer, that's when you really get calmness, serenity, abundance, quiet, growth, purpose, and fulfillment in your life. Stop buying tickets to the show of the narcissist. They only get worse over time. Stop giving them chances. Go no contact if you can. If you can't, utilize Grey Rock. But realize this, you are not who you once were. I am not any longer who I once was. I'm totally different. I'm different than I was 23 minutes ago, and I'm different than I was yesterday. Tomorrow I'll be different more and more and more. I will continue to grow and evolve and change, as will you. So understand, if where you are is where you want to be, that's a beautiful thing. If where you are is not where you want to be, there is work to be done. But life is dynamic. You need to take charge of your life, and you need to choke out or drown out or remove the narcissist from your life and from your energy field. I love you all. God bless you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.